Patti said she was inspired to create this for children after she saw a great need in her hometown in Oregon.
It all started when I was working for Nike, and that was a super cool career, and I was all excited about that. But deep down inside, well, not even deep down inside, I felt unfulfilled. It wasn't where I was supposed to be. And all I wanted to do was record my music. I've been writing songs since I was a kid, and I just felt like there was something in there that would benefit the world. I wasn't sure what it was, but I just knew that if I could get in the studio and record, then something would happen. So I did that. I took the leap of faith and I jumped. I jumped out of Nike and into nothingness. And I bought all of this equipment. I don't know what I'm going to create, what I'm going to record when I do figure this out. 2 weeks in, there is a community service project in the Portland, Oregon area. Some kind soul had discovered that there was a group of kids in our area tragically named the Garbage Bag Kids. And so this person decided they'd get all of the organizations around Portland together, and in the Coliseum of Portland, we had over 1,000 volunteers with donated fabrics, and we were creating duffel bags for the foster care kids in the area. It was a great idea. We were creating all these duffel bags. So we all gathered together, and I'm sitting there looking at all these sewing machines and all of this fabric. And I go to my station and I start cutting fabric, and I'm meeting the people around me. But I'm thinking to myself, this is what we're going to do for these foster care kids, is give them an empty bag? And just as I asked myself that question, what could we put in the bags? I just had this powerful sense. Have you ever had one of those moments where it's just like the heavens open up and you just have this inspiration? Well, I just had tingles everywhere. It was like a lightning bolt came through me. And I was like, of course, I've got this recording studio I'm setting up, and I could put in there an audio experience for these kids so that every night they would hear a feminine, nurturing voice telling them who they are, that they're lovable, that they're powerful, they matter, they have purpose in this life. And every night say this to them. Nighttime is the one time that we all go to sleep, and that's not an easy time for a child to be all by themselves and have to fall asleep, especially if they've heard messages during the day that aren't encouraging. And so that's what I did. I went home, and that night, after the service project, I just sat down and created half of the album. The stories, the meditations, the guided visualizations, the stretching, the deep breathing, and the songs. Half of it just poured into me, and there it was. And that was the beginning of how this was created. Now, I enlisted some therapists to review my scripts, review my songs, make sure I was giving the right messages. I had already studied so much about guided visualizations and the power of meditation and mindfulness. And so I just stuffed this full of all of that. So every night when a child would listen to this, that they would just be uplifted and be reminded of this inner light that each one of us has that can't be damaged no matter what has happened to us. And with that, my hope and dream was that these children would be strengthened and encouraged, and instead of all of the negative behaviors, be able to feel empowered and face the challenges of life with a new sense of self and confidence. So I did that. I created it. It only took me a month to make to design the whole thing. But then it took me another 6 months to figure out all the technology and a full year to complete the project. And once it was done, I was so excited, and then I was like, oh, I don't know how to get this to them. I don't know how to distribute this. Well, interestingly enough, I sent it to the Dr. Laura Schlesinger Foundation, called the My Stuff Bags, where they put in a teddy bear and a baby blanket and toothbrush for kids in need. And when I sent it to them, they said this is what they had been looking for. And so it did go into those, and I felt like, okay, I did it. And so I sent it off to be manufactured for CDs to be printed.
Then, the very day it was at the manufacturer to be pressed onto CDs, that same day, September 11th happened, and the Twin Towers went down. Just as the United States experienced one of the most horrific tragedies in its recent history, hope was being burned into a CD to bring children around the country a feeling of love and safety in a moment when no one felt safe.
So I called the president of disc makers and said, hey, you've got to print another 1,000 of these for the families of 9/11. And to their credit, they did on their own dime, and they went off to all those kids. So in the end, I felt like it was a complete success because it got to all those kids and plus the foundation, and I considered it done.
This is that secret I uncovered, Patti's Bedtime Power audio program. She thought that its purpose was fulfilled when it got to each of the families hit by 9/11 and to a group of the 100,000 kids served by Dr. Laura Schlesinger's foundation. She never got it out to the general public until now. I know that we need this now more than ever. 9/11, 20 years ago, was just the beginning of the uncertainty and worries that the world would carry and the children would feel. No wonder that anxiety, depression, and fear has significantly increased in our children since then. Back in 2001, 1/3 of our youth experienced an anxiety disorder. Imagine what the statistic is now. For the pandemic alone, AADA.org reports that anxiety screens were up by 634% from January, and depression screens were up to 873%. We can leverage bedtime every night to build up the inner strength of a child. We can unlock the power of bedtime to build self-worth and confidence in our children as we get the messages Patti shares into the hearts and minds of millions of children around the world.